PSA's parent company acquires Beckett. Vendors are jumping ship from Pokemon to One Piece, and we're answering questions coming directly from you. Welcome back to Budge Watch, where we answer all questions, talk about all things One Piece TCG with more of an emphasis on the collecting side of things. We are doing Budsmas for the rest of December. Last week's winner was D-Law Squared. This week we, of course, have another giveaway going on where we're giving away a couple of Law cards as well as a Zoro from the illustration box. So all you have to do to get those is like, comment, subscribe, as well as be a U.S. resident. Okay, let's get started. PSA's parent company acquired Beckett, and there's so many people talking about this. Is Beckett gonna die? Is this a monopoly? There is a lot of discussion to be had, and I think there's One Piece is the TCG that utilizes Beckett the most, so I think this is relevant to everyone who watches these videos and is serious about the One Piece collecting side of things. So, Nick, first of all, just overall impressions from this, them acquiring Beckett. What do you think is going to go down? What do you think?
This is definitely a very big deal, and as Dom was saying, I actually think this is a bigger deal for the One Piece community and the overall anime community when it comes to trading cards than it is for Pokemon. Pokemon has always had a little bit more diversity in there. People utilizing Tag, people utilizing CGC. Of course, Beckett was still a grading service that many people utilize in that community. You have the ponchos, very, very high-end promo cards. That black label did indeed mean something. But when it comes to One Piece in particular, there is no higher standard than a Beckett black label. There's no debate on it. The debate is whether or not you want to send your cards to PSA or Beckett, and now it looks like, regardless, you're sending it to PSA's mothership. So either way, no matter what, whether you send it to Beckett or PSA, PSA is going to be getting your money at the end of the day. The question that comes from this is, what is PSA going to do? And that is where everyone's going to have to watch. The number one comparison everyone makes when it comes to talking about PSA in this acquisition is their previous acquisition of SGC. They were another grading service out there. And pretty much what happened was PSA dissolved their business model. Makes sense. It's a competitor. You guys do the same thing. They just took over all of their employees. They took over their facilities, and then they incorporated that into the PSA model. Beckett, however, by far the second biggest grading company for a lot of trading card users to utilize. Again, most notably in the One Piece community for sure. What are they going to do? Are they going to dissolve Beckett over time over the next year like they did with SGC? I don't know. Are they going to keep Beckett around and just have PSA graders designating a black label? Mm-hmm. Is PSA going to incorporate a black label? I have no idea. It's going to be very interesting to watch. Just some quick thoughts. I cannot imagine in any universe PSA incorporating a black label. And the main reason why I say that is because can you imagine you have a PSA 10 and then
just
they
bring
in a black label?
That'd be crazy, yeah.
It's going to undermine the entire marketplace. So definitely if you're worried about a black label coming over to PSA, I don't think you have anything to worry about there. But definitely have something to keep an eye on when it comes to the future of Beckett and what the black label is going to be looking like in the future.
You see, the thing is like Beckett actually has something unique that it offers that the rest of the market really doesn't. That black label is very unique.
CGC, to be fair, they do have a pristine 10. Okay, so they do have a quote-unquote black label. Of course, Tag, they're getting some notoriety. Their whole concept is AI grading. So they emphasize you cannot get a Tag 10 unless it is a perfect card. Now, I've heard there's actually some flaws you can have on a card. It's more similar to PSA than it is to Beckett. If you guys have utilized Tag, let me know in the comments if that's your understanding as well. But for sure, CGC, they have a knockoff black label.
I guess what I mean is like it offers something unique that PSA doesn't. Like you can get a PSA 10 if the card isn't perfect. And with a black label, the card literally has to be a perfect card to get a black label. So I could totally see a road where PSA, and there's two different sides to this coin. There's the side of this coin where PSA just acquires Beckett, or PSA's parent company acquires Beckett, and they slowly dissolve it over time, and PSA acquires more market share, blah, blah, blah. That's one road. Do I think that's going to happen? Honestly, I don't think so, only because of, like, how unique Beckett is. I more so think this might even be a good thing for Beckett, because what we've heard from Beckett over the years is they're terrible. They have terrible, like, they're really bad with the kind of operation of everything. How PSA handles all of these cards constantly, the inflows and the outflows, is honestly a spectacle, and I don't think Beckett is on that same level. And I think Beckett can gain a lot of knowledge, of course, through PSA's parent company, and they can start doing things maybe a little bit better. Maybe this is good for Beckett. Maybe it becomes better.
Let's not get it twisted. PSA is not perfect by any means. There's no grading company.
I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's way better than Beckett.
What you are saying, and okay, they both have positives and negatives that they offer. Sure. That's for sure, right? Mm-hmm. Beckett, you can make the argument, well, they don't upcharge for graded cards. PSA, you can make the argument, well, they're doing such high volume that they control a majority of the market share. Mm-hmm. There's definitely positives and negatives to be had. As you mentioned, what I think this is the most important thing is for the Beckett brand, it acts as a reset button of all the controversy that they have been in. Of course, There's been so many controversies involving PSA, but some of those bigger Beckett controversies, most notably, was the one where allegedly there were employees, high-end employees at Beckett whose family members were submitting cards that were getting black labels. I don't know if there was anything malicious going on. I think it's been alluded to that there was some malice. I will openly admit I'm not an expert on that story, but by any means, but there's definitely been some drama over at Beckett, and PSA's parent company buying them will hit the reset button. But what I think the biggest question to ask right now, and what the people at home need to know, is how is PSA's parent company's ownership now of Beckett going to impact collecting black labels, most notably in the future? What do you think?
I mean, that's where you really have to ask the question that I was kind of putting out there. Is PSA going to slowly dissolve Beckett over time, or are they going to introduce better practices to Beckett? I personally think they'll introduce better practices, because I think Beckett does offer something unique that Beckett offers something unique that PSA doesn't. Now, how does that affect the market? It's actually still an interesting conversation no matter what road it goes, because let's say PSA slowly dissolves Beckett. Does that just make all the black labels more rare?
That's the question. That is the question, and that's the one that I think is going to be the most interesting to pay attention to in the future, is what is a black label going to mean in the future if Beckett is dissolved and black labels are no longer around anymore? What's this going to mean for collectors 30 years from now? What will a Beckett black label mean to kids nowadays who are 5 years old, who in 25, 30 years from now are going to be a majority of the marketplace? Are they going to care about a Beckett black label?
Yeah,
I don't know. And that's why this is a really loaded question to ask, and why I think, obviously, as humans, we have a tendency of future tripping, is what I call it. We like to think about the worst case scenario in the future. But, I mean, for anyone who's in here for the long term, like Dom and I are, we're here for the longevity of the card game. This is definitely a question you got to ask. Is, do you want to switch some of your stuff from Beckett to PSA? Of course, don't cross-grade. Do not cross-grade a black label to a PSA. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is your collecting preference. Typically, people always collect one grading company in particular, either Beckett or PSA. But now that PSA is coming out here, their parent company owns Beckett. We don't know what the future Beckett looks like. Should people start making that shift and transition from buying pristine 10s and black labels to maybe looking across the PSA?
I mean, we've always been fans of PSA for just the reason that there's more liquidity. Beckett, we've just never really been a fan of Beckett. We've never been a fan of gambling for a black label, and the business obviously has some shady history that Nick kind of touched on. And there's more than that, to be honest. I think Oyama was talking about the shady history and how he doesn't like Beckett as well. So there's a lot of unknowns.
There's just a lot of unknowns. It's not what it is.
We could totally just theorize on what's going to happen. There's just, I mean, like we were talking about with where this market goes for One Piece, there's a bunch of paths, and a lot of this is going to depend on how the parent company of PSA handles Beckett and what they want and what the future that they see. We could theorize, we could speculate, but, what I think is more interesting is talking about the One Piece slabs that have already happened under black labels.
Yes.
Like 9.5s and the gold 10s. Like, I honestly, if I was a grader of Beckett, I'd be shitting bricks personally. Like, this is just me personally. Like, the 9.5s and the 10s, the things under a black label, obviously, those are pretty traditional, pretty normal. The thing that's unique to Beckett, from my eyes, is the black label. So if Beckett starts going down the shitter, and there's more of a chance now than there was a week ago that Beckett goes down the shitter. In my opinion, this is just my personal opinion, because PSA, it depends on what PSA wants to do with it. So I'd be kind of scared if I was grading with Beckett regularly, if I owned a bunch of Beckett slabs that weren't black labels. I think you're at the mercy of what PSA decides to do with Beckett. And that's not a position I want to be in.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't want to be in a position where a company is deciding what to do with things that I've graded. And I think that's scary, personally. Now, I'm not saying, like, go out there, sell your shit right now, like, crack your Beckett slabs, take it to PSA, sell your Beckett shit. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. This is still so early, and I'm sure at PSA, we'll see. We'll see as time goes on, and I don't think you should be making decisions yet until we figure out what PSA decides to do with it. But
of course,
it's scary, though, man.
Definitely. And I think it's important in any aspect of life that you do not act emotionally. Obviously, we have always preached, do not act on FOMO, do not act emotionally, and let's just keep it a buck here. Beckett still right now is the gold standard for grading cards in terms of the highest prestige. The Beckett Black Label is still the highest prestige. That's not going anywhere. Where this is going to become potentially problematic is, again, with what PSA decides to do. In PSA's disclaimer, they did say that they were going to continue the operations at Beckett, but at the end of the day, guys, this can mean nothing. Look at what they did with SGC. Look at any acquisition of competitors. Typically, the acquiring party dissolves the other party, or they completely integrate the processes into their operations, right? This is just standard when it comes to capitalism, when it comes to buyouts.
The only thing I could find, PSA said that Beckett will remain an independent brand and will continue to grade with no change in price. That's the only two things they said.
Yeah. I remember a long time ago. This is like 5 years ago. I'll never forget when Disney Plus came around. And Disney Plus came around. They said, this is our price for the foreseeable future. It was $5 a month. Disney Plus right now. Disney Plus right now, $25 a month, man. These companies always release these boilerplate statements, these generalized things to give people a false sense of security. But everyone can look through the BS. People can see that this is a problem, and we don't know how big of a problem it is, though. Of course, as Dom said, we don't think this is doomsday. This is not the end of times. You should not be looking to get yourself cross-graded. I mean, if you have a 9.5, I will say, I always think that you should get a Beckett 9.5 cross-graded to a 10 in PSA, just because typically that's the grade you get on a cross-grade, and you get more value from the PSA 10. But when it comes to those pristine 10s and the black labels, that's where it's going to be really, really spicy and interesting to see. Because, again, with this announcement, what's the market share going to be looking like? I know Dom and I were discussing this prior to us recording the video right now, that Beckett's sitting at around 18% market share when it comes to...
CGC's.
Sorry, CGC's 18%. What was Beckett at before their...
I think now that PSA has Beckett, PSA's at 80% market share.
So PSA, and again, guys, correct us if we're wrong. There's an entire screenshot I saw. If you could throw that in the future video, you guys can see that in front of you. But again, PSA is going to have dominant control over the market share. So what's that mean? Is everyone in the trading cards game sphere, or only for One Piece in particular? Is it PSA only? I mean, I don't know if you saw CGC CEO came out and he said, we're not going quiet into that good night, with him pretty much calling out PSA, talking about the positives the CGC offers, the better pricing, the better overall experience that you can get from grading through CGC. But what's that mean to collectors? When collectors think of grading cards, fundamentally, the first thing that comes to mind has always been PSA and Beckett. Sure. Tag can come in here and they can say all this stuff about we offer all these great services, state of the art, because they released a statement too after the acquisition came from PSA over Beckett. So you have Tag CGC over here. They're trying to put up a fight. Is there going to be more diversity over there? Or is it just going to be everybody now saying, look, PSA is by far the king and we're going to submit? What do you think? You think CGC is going to get some more variety there? You think Tag might have a better pool in the One Piece community? Or you think everyone's just going to say it's PSA over everything if Beckett gets dissolved?
I think, man, it's such a crazy question because, as we know, Beckett is so utilized in the One Piece TCG world just because One Piece card stock is so amazing that usually it just tends at PSA and people like to gamble for that black label. But now that this brings so many different things into question. To answer your question, are they going to go to Tag? Are they going to go to CGC? I know a lot of people hate PSA. Like, I know a lot of people.
There are some straight up haters for PSA for sure.
And I just don't think people ever go to PSA. Like, people like that, I don't think will ever go to PSA. The people who are like, PSA will upcharge you. I don't like how non-transparent they are and all these different things. And they're not doing PSA. They're just not doing it. But for the people in One Piece who have been prioritizing Beckett because that's what they've been told to do or that's what they've learned, and they don't really have any hatred towards PSA, I could totally see them just going to PSA personally. That's always where we've been because that's where the liquidity is. That's where the most market share is. It's the safer bet in our opinion. Is PSA ever going to get dissolved? Probably not.
Number one grading service in terms of the first one to market.
Yeah, so I can sleep at night knowing I have PSA slabs. I feel like
bed.
Yeah.
Give you a little kiss on the forehead.
Like I have PSA slabs. Like I'm good. I'm chilling. I just tuck me in at night. I'm good. All these other ones like CGC, Tag, all these different things. Like I think Tag is really cool, really unique. I like the way they do things. There's no fluff. There's no funny business. It's all based off AI grading, and you can see like where the damage is and all that kind of stuff. Like that's really cool. That is genuinely something new and transformative in a market that I honestly think needs it. But what's stopping PSA from just doing that? Like just copying it or doing something like that?
I don't know. No. I think that is actually where they draw the line.
Oh, you think so?
I think that is for sure where they draw the line because there's a lot of critics out there of AI grading, even though the whole purpose of AI grading is to add some objectivity. I think human beings in general, because if you remember, the trading card sphere is bigger than just Pokemon One Piece. It's bigger than just trading cards, right?
Yeah.
Sports cards are a huge area of the marketplace. There's a lot of people who've been around there collecting for a very, very long time, and I have met several people who are dissuaded from going to Tag ever because of the use of AI. They don't like that there could be some corruption that happens in the programming. They don't like the idea that there isn't a human being directly responsible for that. Even though I think it's ironic, right? Human beings naturally flawed beings, right? AI is supposed to be an objective standard.
I could see it though. I could totally see people hating AI.
There is definitely a distrust of some people. So that same concern that people have of PSA of I hate PSA because they're graders. You could have a grader come in one day, his kid spilled some coffee on him, and his wife won't have sex with him, and he just gives you a 7 instead of 10, right? Like that's the underlying meme.
Having a terrible time.
You just never know what you're gonna get. And Tag's supposed to be the flip side of that. But again, there's the people who make the argument that they don't like how AI grading can potentially, there's just a natural distrust still in society when it comes to the utilization of AI. Now, of course, over time, but I think Tag has an IP and they have a business model that could exceed past CGC. I actually 100% do think so. I think as people get older, there's a bigger comfort and trust towards AI. I think having an objective standard for grading is the way it should be, for sure. But for now, again, I don't think PSA is going anywhere. Definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, AI is kind of taking over a lot of just industries in general, and I know people don't like AI in general, not even just like the corruption that it could possibly have, but also just taking away human being jobs. So I could totally see a lot of people not supporting Tag that way. So I mean, I do think, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think CGC and I think Tag will benefit from PSA's parent company taking over Beckett, because there's just so many people who hate PSA who've decided to go with Beckett. And specifically for the One Piece TCG market, Beckett was the go-to because of the card stock and how quality the cards were. And now those people will have to make a decision. Are they going to stick with Beckett through thick and thin? Do they think PSA is going to do the right thing with Beckett and keep it alive and just make it better? Like, do they think that? Then yeah, continue grading with Beckett. Keep your Beckett slabs. Don't worry. Now, if you go down the route of thinking like, oh, PSA is just going to dissolve this like they did with SGC, and you start grading with other companies, that we'll just have to see. We're going to have to see how things happen and unfold from here, but it's interesting to see. One thing that I've seen people throw around here is PSA's parent company now has a monopoly over grading, which is objectively not true, but I do see the argument. 80% market share is really high, but just from a definition standpoint, a monopoly is exclusive ownership over a market with no relevant competitors.
Of course.
And CGC is a relevant competitor, so.
Yes. So the use of monopoly in the situation is very, very important because, again, from a capitalism perspective, competition is needed for a healthy market.
Yes.
Right? So you don't want to have PSA have complete domination over the marketplace, because what's stopping them from increasing their grading prices to some ridiculous amounts of money to where you have to go through them, of course. This is where competition comes in to negate that. What I will say is, while according to the definition, what PSA is doing is not a monopoly, it has to be said, especially for One Piece, that this is going to be a potential problem. And the only reason why I say that is, let's keep it a buck, guys. Let's be honest. How many people in One Piece are really utilizing tag and CGC for grading? And the answer is,
I don't see any.
I promise you, it's less than 18%. I promise you it's less than 18%.
Yeah.
Pokemon, on the other hand, there's plenty of people out there using CGC. Tag had a huge influx of business over the last year. They actually started expanding their business model because of the influx of Pokemon grading that they got. But for One Piece in particular, while there may not be an overarching monopoly on trading cards and sports cards grading, there very well could be a potential monopoly coming into play when it comes to getting One Piece cards graded. Because again, guys, no matter what, at the end of the day, Dom and I are here because we want to give you guys guidance and the best information possible to assist you in your collecting journey. And what I'm here to say I know we've been rambling and ranting about what we think the future market is going to look like, but again, from a fundamental perspective here, I think you'd be very naive and foolish to get your cards graded through CGC and through Tag right now. And the reason why I say that is because there's no proof of concept in One Piece yet. You don't see an influx. You don't see a huge percentage of the market share of Tag, of CGC, of people collecting that. People are collecting PSA and they're collecting Beckett. So if you're sending all your cards to CGC, there is a very good chance that your cards could go down in value if it's a CGC 10 in comparison to a PSA 10. Where the gray area comes is the pristine 10 from CGC, which is the equivalent to a black label. That has always been a little bit more expensive, if not the same price as a PSA 10. But really, I highly recommend you guys think about what you want to do when it comes to your collecting journey, if you're submitting stuff to get graded or you're picking stuff up, because you might see a bunch of Tag and CGC hit the marketplace, and it might even be a good price. You may want to start looking at cross-grading some of that stuff, but I think it's very dangerous to be sitting on some very expensive cards or majority of your position in your collection with a CGC or a Tag header on that slab.
Yeah. To summarize, guys, if you guys do like grading with Beckett, you guys do have Beckett slabs. Don't be too scared. Don't just sell all of your stuff. Don't crack your slabs. Don't do anything like that. Wait and see what the parent company of PSA actually does with Beckett, and make your decision based off of actual things that are happening. For those of you who just hate PSA, you're gonna grade with another company anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Nick and I have been preaching PSA for honestly
not sponsored since day one. Literally since day one.
Not sponsored by PSA or anything like that. We just know that PSA has the most liquidity. We think it's going to be, PSA has the biggest chance to be around the longest, so it obviously will retain its value. So that'll always be Nick and I's opinion. You can make your own opinion based off of whatever, ideals you have or just anything like that. Good luck. But let us know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you guys think PSA's parent company is going to dissolve Beckett? Are they going to make it better? Are you going to go grade with CGC or Tag now? Let us know your thoughts down below.
And then one thing to add there, again, plugging the Beginner's Guide series, I actually did an entire breakdown of what utilizing the different grading services looks like when collecting One Piece, and it is is PSA and Beckett overrated? That's the name of the video. I'm gonna have Future Dom plug that here at some point. Might plug at the end of the video in the playlist, but again, be sure to check that out, guys. There's a whole bunch of information actually breaking down, again, percentage of market share and my overall opinion when it comes to selecting the grading service. As Dom mentioned, we are not sponsored by PSA, but we've always promoted them just because we had this conversation a year ago trying to figure out what the best grading service was to utilize, and that was the one that always stuck out to us the most.
All right, guys, we're moving on to vendors. So vendors, now I've seen a bunch of memes on TikTok, which are freaking hilarious. I'm actually going to plug a meme right here.
All right, now that I've sold my entire Pokemon card inventory, I'm just going to make a ton of money selling One Piece. It should be very similar, right? Am I a real One Piece fan? Of course I'm a real One Piece fan. I've been a fan since I was a kid. Who's my favorite Straw Hat pirate? What the hell's a Straw Hat?
So, I mean, there's so many memes going on. It's hilarious. Basically, what's going on right now is a bunch of vendors are either jumping ship from Pokemon to One Piece, or they're all just adding One Piece to their vending booths, which, I mean, it makes sense, right? The market is hot. These vendors want to make money. I'm not going to fault them for that. What I think is hilarious is you have vendors who don't know jack shit about One Piece selling slabs and
It's
One
bad.
Piece. They don't even know anything about the TCG or anything like that.
It's dangerous, guys. It's very dangerous. And the reason why I utilize the word dangerous is, as you're going to see right there in front of our case, a vendor badge from Card Party 3 in Seattle. If you guys have been following our journey over the last year, we even posted a couple vendor POVs. Dom, AJ, and I went to go vend at Card Party in Seattle, which was at the beginning of October, right before the One Piece boom happened. There was some stuff that was going up, for sure. At the time, you were able to see market trends a little bit when it came to manga prices in particular going up. But when I tell you the amount of vendors who had One Piece and had no idea what they were doing, it was a dog-eat-dog world. And actually, probably one of, if not the biggest turnoffs that I think Dom and I will agree on when we were vending was the predatory behavior amongst the vendors themselves.
Yeah.
In particular, I heard a story of a fellow One Piece vendor. So it's funny how there's cliques. There's cliques of people when you're acting as a vendor. And when we were vending, there was probably 4 or 5 vendors who really particularly focused on One Piece. And we would always talk to each other the entire time. We'd do laps around, talk to each other, shoot the shit. You know, there was some rapport there. And I will not forget the story of one of the vendors coming up to me and saying that he was able to pick up a PSA 10 Manga Zoro for like $1,200. $1,200 from a Pokemon vendor who knew nothing about it, just had it sitting in his case. It's crazy. He even negotiated for it. I mean, that's crazy. He wanted like $1,250 or $1,300 for it, and he got him down to $1,200. So he didn't even negotiate for it. But the reason why I emphasize this, guys, is because it's really easy in a marketplace of people who have no idea what they're talking about for you to either be taken advantage of,
For sure.
or for someone else to be taken advantage of.
So when we were vending, one of the things that stuck out to me the most was exactly what you're saying. One of the biggest things that I thought was amazing was just making people's days. There was kids coming. We were giving them free cards. It was super heartwarming. One of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done in my entire life. The opposite end of that was what you're saying. Just the amount of people who were taking advantage of a market that nobody really understood. And this was before the boom, so I don't even know how it is right now. Maybe they're educating themselves now because everything is so hot and they have so much money involved. But something that stuck out to me back then was, I remember we were talking to people who were using a specific app that had like cheaper prices than what they actually were, and vendors were going around looking for that and like taking advantage and buying that from other people. There are so many amazing people who vend, but there are also some scummy motherfuckers.
There's a lot of shitbags out there. I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a lot of shitbags out there. And I was watching an Opossum Bud video recently, and he kind of highlighted this a little bit. He mentioned he created a video to the One Piece community, much better in what he said than Pokey did in his video. Wasn't just rage bait inducing. He actually just had some takes, and he said he watched the manga, or he's been reading the manga, he watches the show, he's pretty much caught up on everything.
Yeah.
And his take was just him saying, I'm sorry guys, you're in for a rough patch of grifters and shitlords and terrible people and scalpers taking over your hobby. And that's the truth. And I'm not going to sit here and say that every scalper is a terrible person. I'm not not scalpers. Scalpers are terrible people. Sorry, I'm not gonna sit there and say that every vendor is a terrible person. We met plenty of vendors out there,
amazing people
who are really, really great people. They're there for the right reason. They're there because they just want to grow the card game. They're there because they want a great experience of people. But there inevitably is gonna be some shitlords, shitbags, assholes, vendors coming into the space who are gonna be very, very predatory. Not only their pricing, but also in their actions amongst each other. Being a vendor is a dog-eat-dog world. I said that for sure. That was the biggest turnoff of us going to become a vendor, was seeing that behavior. And the app that Dom was talking about in particular was Alt. And the reason why we need to emphasize this is because Alt is one of the two biggest apps that is utilized in Pokemon to get accurate pricing of slabs. The whole purpose of Alt is it's supposed to pull directly from eBay and cut out all the BS. So when you look on eBay, sometimes, actually not sometimes, all the time, if you see an offers accepted, it will not tell you what the price is. But Alt will show you what the price was of the offer that was accepted so you can properly comp cards. However, being that One Piece was so brand new to the boom, Alt did not update. So a lot of vendor pricing was based off of Alt, which, as you guys have seen with how big the market has grown over the last 2 months, there are cards that might be 3 days old that would 2x in price. So Alt would not update, which is why if you guys are ever out there in the field, highly recommend you are doing comps beforehand. You make a list of all the cards that you want in particular, write them down, comp them out the night before you go to the card show, so when you show up, you know what you're looking for. But going back to what I was saying, there are going to be people out there who are predatory in nature. They're going to want to buy all your SPs, your mangas, all your good stuff for a lower percentage. They're not going to be looking to negotiate like they once were. Before, negotiating One Piece was a walk in the park. Very easy walk in the park. I mean, that 85 percentage was always that number that you'd want to shoot for, but you typically see yourself getting 90%. I was watching a Sean Pai video, which shout out Sean Pai, one of the great people out there as a vendor, and he just blatantly told people, he's like, look, I don't have room to negotiate on SPs and mangas anymore. I just don't, because he has to pay such a high percentage to bring them into his booth. So there's going to be less room, less opportunity out there for you to go ahead and be able to make those negotiations happen. They're still available, guys. I'm not going to tell you that everything's doomed. Still possibilities out there, especially if you're doing a larger purchase. There will always be room for negotiation, but be careful with who you do business with. Let's make sure we're emphasizing the good people out there. We're not giving business to the people who are bad, because there are still people out there who are charging above market price for cards, and even people who are still doing the dreaded, I am going to charge you more because it's PSA 10 worthy, even though it's a raw card, which is disgusting. Never do that. If you're one of those people out there who does that, stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Dude, you can always... I saw someone on Reddit say that they went to a vendor, and the vendor said the main character's name was Monkey.
I believe it. I believe it.
All you have to do when you go to a vendor is just ask the main character. Or you just, dude, ask something a little bit more niche. Maybe like, who's the doctor on the ship or something like that.
Adrian might not know that. Shout out Adrian if you're watching.
Like a little bit more niche, like to figure out if they actually know about One Piece. To be fair, there are people in the card game who don't watch the show, who just like the game or something like that. So it's not like an end-all be-all, but I think if someone doesn't know the main character, that's a telltale sign, probably. That would be crazy.
In their defense, vendors are there to make money. There's only
they are.
There are people out there who actually just do it for the love of the game. One of the biggest in the industry, Coops Collectibles, recently just got into One Piece, brother. If
recently just got scammed too.
I'm sure you're never gonna watch, but if you do, man, I'm sorry you got scammed. Those guys are shitlords. Do not let them represent how great the One Piece community is.
Just for context, he got a God Pack from a Whatnot stream, and they took it off screen, said he didn't get it, and then he never got it.
Insane. Disgusting. Anyways, but back to what I was saying. Vendors are making the transition because of how hot the One Piece market is. With Pokemon slump as well, vendors' profit margins are really decreasing in the Pokemon sphere. I was actually recently watching a podcast between who I think to be the holy trinity of vending in Pokemon. You have Oyama's Trading, Garchomp, and Bulbasaur giving their perspectives on what's going on in the marketplace and whether or not they're changing their strategies for what their buy rates are. And Bulbasaur made a very good point, which is, as a vendor, it's his job to move those cards as quick as possible. He's not changing up his buying strategy. He's just changing up what he's buying in particular. In Pokemon, liquidity is king amongst cards, right? For those vendors, a lot of their profit margins come from quick flips. It comes from high volume, not necessarily a few big cards that are bringing a good amount of money. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because One Piece is going to be in the same realm. So again, guys, if you're looking to pick up some cards, and again, I was watching Sean Pai's video. I've never seen a One Piece booth as busy as it was for Sean Pai on that video that he posted a couple weeks ago of him at, I think, Portland Front Row. And the people are here. The people are here, and everyone's showing up. What do you think they're buying?
SPs, mangas, promos, man.
There was one guy in particular, I kid you not. Yeah. He showed up, he bought pretty much every SP Sean Pai had within 5 minutes.
And that's, dude, there's just not enough supply of these things, dude. That's why these vendors are probably buying at 90%, 95% on these SPs.
No, Sean Pai did say that he was buying very high on mangas and SPs, and I get it. He did also mention that he doesn't like getting his cards graded. He just buys them raw and he puts them out there as is, which also hinders his ability to negotiate because, again, typically the card is likely, if it's near mint, going to be a 10, so he doesn't want to negotiate on a card that he could submit himself. Again, I personally am not a fan of that mentality, but I understand it, right?
Yeah, just get it graded, man.
Is that all these people are buying cards, they're going to PSA, and I think this goes to an overarching issue, which I have foreseen in the future, and we'll probably discuss at a later video, something that I talked ad nauseum with Dom about last week, which is what is going to happen to the One Piece market when all these cards start coming back from PSA. Before, the premise was, don't get your cards graded, man. They're not worth anything. You're getting a 2x multiplier. No one's going to buy it. It was all a bunch of, shout out Rudy Alpha Investments, game piece army, Timmy mentality. If you're not utilizing the card to play, it has no retained value. You shouldn't waste your time with it. But you're seeing with this huge wave of collectors, Poke Bros, people in here just for quick flips. I've seen probably 2 or 3 shorts just telling from big content creators in the sphere who I've moved from Pokemon to One Piece, telling people to just pick up singles, SPs, mangas, get them graded and sell them. There is a huge wave of slabs coming from PSA, and I think even last month was the first month in history that One Piece had more graded cards submitted to PSA than Pokemon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember I saw a photo with that stating it. We use a middleman service here locally, and they even told me that when they went to drop off some cards, the PSA employees were telling them that it's just One Piece everywhere right now. There is a wave coming, guys, and I don't want to get any doomsday ideas out there. I don't want to say that there's a bubble being popped, but what I will say is there's going to be a huge influx of graded cards hitting the market within the next 6 months.
So you're saying that there wasn't a ton of PSA slabs, there wasn't a ton of cards that were graded before this huge boom. Then there was a bunch of money being made from these slabs because you had a bunch of collectors come in to not a lot of supply of these slabs. And now you're saying that because there's so much money being made on this lack of supply of slabs,
everyone
is sending a bunch of stuff in to get graded. And now there's going to be a bunch of stuff coming back, and the easy tendies have already been made, and now there's going to be an actual supply for people to buy, right?
Exactly. That is what I foresee happening, and the canary in the coal mine for me when it came to that was seeing these cards get 4 to 5x multiplier.
Luffy SEC,
4 to 5x multiplier between a raw copy and a 10. Anybody who's been following One Piece at all in the trading card game and collecting it, you typically saw a 2 to 3x max. What I used to like to do is I used to get the manga that just came out for the new set. I would buy it pre-release or I'd buy it a week after release. I would send that bad boy to get graded 10 to 15 day PSA, come back, be first to market because you could get probably over a 2x multiplier than what it was on the raw card. Then what I would do is I'd just repurchase a raw card and submit that one again to add to the PC. I've had to modify that strategy with the huge amount of of purchasers who are not entering the marketplace. But the reason why I bring that up is because that 4x multiplier is not healthy. It's not healthy for how good the QC is.
Yeah.
The only way that can be sustainable is if demand is really so high and there's just that short of supply in the print of these cards. Don't get me wrong. Mangas, a lot of the SPs out there are just not many out there in circulation. That is why we've always promoted getting the mangas and SPs whenever you can. Obviously, it's much harder to do that now. But for a lot of these alt-art cards...
Those treasure pack Luffys,
those treasure rares out there...
I know they've been grading the shit out of those.
Don't get me wrong, guys. Treasure rare is a harder hit rate, but it's not a hit rate of an SP. And I think we're going to see a lot of these cards, especially alt-art SECs, treasure rares, flooding the market over the next 6 months. And unless there is a demand to eat that all up, you're going to see some singles prices go down in the slab market.
It's going to be interesting to see. Anyways, guys, let us know what you guys think about vendors hopping to One Piece. Do you guys like it? Do you guys hate it? Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below. All right, guys, let's talk about the market a little bit. You know, every episode we like to talk about the state of the market, what we're seeing, what we're thinking. Nick, I mean, you have some opinions here. What do you think?
I feel like I need to add in like a green screen here of me just pointing up to a bunch of graphs. I'm joking, guys. We're never going to be that deep into what the marketplace will be looking like. But to give you guys some updates, we are still in that volatile time that I told you last week to foresee as being the future for the next month or two, where things are going up, things are going down. You're seeing a lot of corrections out there between some singles. Most notably for the sealed product, OP10, in the words of Eminem, snap back to reality. Whoa, there goes gravity. 154 a box. If you're one of the people who bought it for 180. It peaked 180. Okay. Last week I begged. I was on my knees on this couch. I was pleading the Lord that no one buy that set at 180 a box. And what happened? Back to reality. 154. And I think 154 is still too much for that set.
It is. In
particular, I think there's going to be a better buying opportunity. And even if I'm incorrect, I promise you, I will not lose an ounce of sleep at OP10 possibly being $10,000 in 10, 15 years from now than buying something else like an OP11 or an OP12. Speaking of OP12, you're starting to see that one climb a little bit more. Again, in that volatile space, been bouncing back and forth between 140 and 130. Currently sitting right around the 145 mark.
It's probably like the only grossly underpriced set right now.
Yeah. The other set that was grossly underpriced was OP11. OP11 been sitting between, again, the 230, 220 mark, sitting right around 223 right now. But the point I'm trying to make here is we're entering this phase of volatility. OP05 up a little bit. I think I saw lowest list right now 765. So recovering from that 750 bottom. But as I was mentioning, guys, this is what it's likely going to look like in the foreseeable future for sealed product until Big Daddy Bandai finally puts their foot down and does something at those manufacturing facilities.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
As we mentioned, do we think they're going to print OP05 again?
No.
Do we think they're going to print OP09 again? I don't know. That's to be had.
I can see that. I can see that.
It's to be determined. But what you can guarantee, in the words of Charles Barkley, you're going to see coming, OP13. Sitting right around 325 a box. Peak 350. Peak 350. I was watching a Kaizoku Ice video today. I think he just posted it today. We're recording this on Monday. Shout out Kaizoku Ice. Always providing some great knowledge and insight to the community. We appreciate you, brother, and appreciate what you do.
Come on the show, by the way.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on the show. DM us on Instagram. But what Kaizoku mentioned was he was talking about everything OP13. He was talking about the singles. He was talking about the box pricing. And he said the same thing that we had been saying, which is that box pricing is just too high right now. There's a lot of unknowns what's coming in the future. But one thing you can guarantee is coming is a reprint
for sure
with OP13. We don't know how big it's going to be. I can't tell you. We might have our local game store. I think they had over a pallet of product for the first wave. They might have 2 pallets for this one. We don't know.
Bandai would be leaving millions of dollars, millions upon millions of dollars on the table if they didn't reprint it. It is the easiest reprint. No one is going to be mad at the reprint at all. No one. Collectors, players, investors, doesn't matter what you are. No one's going to be mad at OP13 getting reprinted, so no one's going to get mad at you, and you're going to make literal millions off of it. So OP13 needs to be reprinted. I would be shocked if it isn't reprinted. Now, we get to like sets like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, PRBO2, and EBO2, like those sets, you could start having a conversation about like, do you think this should be reprinted? Do you think that should be reprinted? Honestly, I think anything OP09 and after, I think should probably be reprinted at this point. It's still fresh. I think they could do it, and nobody's going to get really pissed. I think they have to be careful because this is what they did last year in 2024, the beginning of 2024, where they reprinted a crap ton, and then everybody left and got mad. But this is a totally different market at this point where you have so much more demand, and a lot of people don't think this is just a failing Bandai TCG anymore. Yep. So there's a lot more confidence. So I think they can safely reprint a lot of these things. There might be some people who are like, typical Bandai shit, like I'm done with this. But honestly, I think that's what they should do, and I think that's what they're going to do. Just how far back they go, who knows?
And Kaizoku mentioned in his video, he said something that I didn't even consider when it came to OP13. It was a very, very good pick on the market, which is Bandai has already announced several products coming with OP13 packs in it. You have the mini tins just got announced.
True, yeah.
Then you have illustration boxes 5 and 6, which are going to have OP13 in them. You're going to see more of this set out there in circulation. As Dom and I have been preaching, there's going to be more of this product. Bandai's not going to leave money on the table. There's going to be a drop. I can't tell you how much. Do I think we're back in the realm where we're going to see beneath $200 a box?
Probably not.
Probably not. No. Probably not. Our local game store, they wouldn't tell us the exact price. They're probably going to listen to that, but they said definitely not MSRP. So that's outside the realm anymore. But the point we're trying to make here is there's going to be a better buying opportunity for you guys in the future. I think, especially in the singles marketplace, you see the OP13 singles, they're going crazy still with the lack of supply that is in the marketplace for these bigger hits. As more product gets printed, more of these come into circulation, you're going to see prices go down. Now, one thing he also mentioned in his video that I didn't consider and I thought is important to mention here. So again, not just regurgitate what he's saying. Shout out Kaizoku Ice. Watch his content. He does a lot of great stuff in the community. But he mentioned the pre-errata ace. And what he said was, if Bandai doesn't create an errata ace, and the only way you can get it is from submitting a pre-errata version, will the errata ace be more expensive? I think so. I agree.
I think that is interesting. It really is interesting. But if you have a pre-errata, you can always get errata. That's the thing that I'm thinking about right now. Is like,
but no one's doing it.
Yeah,
right
but
now.
Nobody will do it. But I feel like if the value goes astronomically high, don't you think people are just going to switch their stuff, and eventually it'll even out, right?
Yeah, I think you will see a little bit of an even out. But I agree.
It's a really good point. Good point.
How many people are going to be willing to send their cards to Bandai? I was thinking about it for a second. I was like, shit, if I spend... So let's just hypothetically speaking, the pre-errata ace never gets corrected. That's the only ace want to poster it stays out. More hit circulation. Let's say it drops maybe $100, $150. Are you really going to send a $400 card via snail mail to Bandai? How does that even work? I don't even know how it works.
I don't
know how many people are going to be turned off. Will the errata ace be the more rare copy? No, we're definitely going to test it because I want to get a copy both. So stay tuned, guys. If Bandai doesn't give us an errata ace, I will be doing a submission and we'll make a whole video about it.
That would be actually really cool.
We're going to do it. Cool. But anyways, guys, let us know what you think about the current state of the marketplace down below. Always love hearing your guys' feedback, and let us know what you guys think about everything.
Crazy stuff. All right, guys, let's get into Q&A. If you guys don't know, you guys can leave whatever question you have for us down below in the comment section, and we may answer your questions in the next episode. First question comes in from Merlinda. Any tips on someone who's trying to start in the TCG?
There's a lot.
Nick has a whole beginner's guide, so I'm gonna put a little the first episode right here. You guys can go check that out. He goes into basically kind of everything from grading to collecting to what you should be collecting. He even has a video on playing the game if you want to learn how to play the game as well. So first of all, that's what I'll plug is Nick's beginner guide series. I think that's a really good to get into. If you don't want to go through all of that. I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying to play the game? Are you trying to collect the game? Are you trying to, I guess, invest in sealed product? And I mean, investing in sealed product is pretty self-explanatory. Get the good sets, get the anniversary sets, put it in the closet, wait a couple years. If you're trying to collect, Nick and I always say, collect the top characters. Luffy, Zoro, Boa Hancock, Nami, Sanji, those top characters if you're looking to collect. Or just collect characters that you like. If you like, I don't freaking know, Laboon, the freaking whale.
Shout out Laboon, baby. I know.
Like, just collect Laboon cards. It's totally okay. Now, if you're looking to play the game, we can't get directly into that in this question, so I will just say go watch Nick's video on how to play the game.
Shout out gumgum.gg. Not sponsored.
Gumgum.gg. And also there's some deck lists and stuff. And Gumgum.gg even has a market watch. So shout out that website. Please sponsor us. I mean, we would love to be sponsored by Gumgum.gg. But yeah, I would say just it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're looking to collect, which I'm going to assume you're looking to collect, I would make sure you're looking at prices of things only because there's a lot of things that are astronomically high right now. To take Nick's word, it is astronomically high right now, and you need to make sure that you're not buying something that has been manipulated recently or something, because there is some manipulation going on.
Gengar Nami, bro.
Yeah, like the Gengar
Nami.
So I would say it depends on the character you're looking for. Nick and I always say, always get your promos, always get your SPs and mangas. Those will always retain some value. Another thing that could help is just focus on newer sets. A lot of the older sets are probably really, really expensive. Now, if you have the wallet to do that, then yeah, go back and get those cool cards. Just know that you might be paying a more of a premium price on those. So focusing on newer sets means that there's more product out there, more supply out there that people haven't gobbled up that you guys can get into. But I don't know. It's a really general question here. I don't know, Nick, if you have anything to add on here, but
no. Of course, Dom hit the nail on the head with most of what he was saying. I just want to add in a couple things. Of course, as Dom was mentioning, the most important thing is to collect what you like. This is a you question more than anything. Us, the community, all we can do is give you some quick answers, some outlets, some information that can assist you in your collecting journey. But at the end of the day, this is a question that you're going to have to answer and that you're going to have to figure out. What I will say on top of what Dom said is I will highly recommend you start making relationships with your local game store and your local community of players. Even if you're not a player, showing up there with a trade binder, you could have some SRs, you could have some dollar cards, dollar alt arts, showing up there, making some relationships. I don't like using the word network because I feel like you're using people, but again, you are networking. But just getting yourself out there, meet the community, see the great people out there, look to make some trades, and that will assist you in figuring out what you want to do. So I highly recommend you do that. Get out there, make some connections at your local game store. If it's a good game shop, if they're charging $200 a box for OP10, do not go there. Do not go there. If you're in a rural community and that's your only option,
yeah,
I still wouldn't say go there. I highly recommend you never give business to people like that who are scalping their own clientele. But of course, I understand there's some people where they only have one card shop nearby and that's all they can get. However, if you are in a pretty densely populated area, there's multiple game stores, don't be afraid. I know in general, society is becoming more and more antisocial in nature, and people just like to communicate more on the internet. That's kind of what human nature is looking like. But I always recommend do not be afraid of the trading card community. There are some great people out there. I was one of the people who was really, really afraid to get out in my local community just because I thought that as a new player, I wouldn't be able to keep up with their pace of play and their knowledge, and I thought I was going to be a hindrance. But it actually was the opposite. Everyone has been very nice, very supportive. I've yet to have a bad interaction, knock on wood, with anybody. And I always urge you, whether you're a collector, player, both, make connections out there with your community, because at the end of the day, those are going to be the go-tos for you to get knowledge and information from.
If you're trying to play the game, download the sim. Just look up OPTCG sim on Google. If you're trying to buy singles, TCG Player, eBay, I'm just assuming that you might be new to all this stuff. Make a relationship with your card shop. It'll be hard for you if you're new to determine if they're a great card shop or not. Just look at a TCG Player pricing, and if they have above that, probably not the best card shop, to be honest.
And then, of course, be sure to follow Andy Collects and the Orange Samurai on X.
Those are good
Two huge leaders in the community when it comes to picking up products and product announcements. They'll keep you up to date with everything you want to be keeping your eye on, whether it's links for new products that are dropping or potential cards that are coming out. They are the go-to for news. So be sure to follow them on X. Be active as well.
I think we have a ton of good advice there. I gotta give us props for that one. All right, moving on to the last question comes from PokeTroy1. How do you guys feel about investing in Japanese manga cards? A lot cheaper than English, but do you think they will go up in time? I mean,
it's a hard. I think it's a hard question, and the reason why I think it's a harder question is because Pokemon has typically always been the guiding light when it comes to collecting One Piece in many regards. I'd say probably over 75-80%.
Yeah.
A lot of what happens in the Pokemon market translates over to One Piece. This is the one area in particular where I don't see it. Typically, when it comes to Japanese sets in Pokemon, there's a good amount of retained value on the top hits in the sets. They just carry over amongst each other. There is also a group of people who love collecting Japanese cards over collecting One Piece cards. And I'm going to steal the take from my boy Dom over here, which he sent a video a couple weeks ago. But genuinely, if you are just a fan of the art and you want to collect the cards because you think they have super cool art, go ahead and do your thing. Japanese market is great. I've opened up a ton of Japanese product. You can find it out there. It's typically really affordable. The hit rates are garbage, absolute trash. But if you are just out there to collect the art, it's a good alternative for you. That's more affordable. But if you're out there and you're looking to collect stuff that is going to have a good amount of retained value in the long term, you're looking for stuff that's going to secure your collection in terms of value, I don't see it. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, manga cards, they might go up, they might retain value, but there's just other opportunities in English that are just far better. The Japanese market is just completely different than the English market. Something that I always think is really interesting is PRBO1 was a failure in Japan. It was a failure. There is so much product for PRBO1. It was apparently a monstrous failure in Japan. But in America, it's like $800 a box. Yeah. So these are just completely different markets. Japan doesn't really care as much as we do about collecting these cards. And this is just what I see, by the way. This is just my opinion. Nick, you might have a different opinion on this stuff. I just think it's a completely different market. Not a lot of people are going to care about Japanese cards the same way they'll care about English cards, which means there'll be less people getting them, which means less time it'll go up or retain value. So it's just something I steer away from personally.
Yeah, and a good example that Straw Hat Speculator actually mentioned in a video recently was OP01. OP01 in Japan hasn't moved at all. Guys, we're talking a base set box that has not moved or barely moved in price.
Yeah.
That is a problem. Because even looking back on the Japanese Pokemon sets, they're all incredibly expensive. Japanese gym heroes, oh my god! Like, there are some monster sets that are vintage in Pokemon that are Japanese, and they are worth a boatload of cash. And seeing this stuff sit around is a red flag to me, for sure. Again, if you are a Japanese collector, at the end of the day, guys, collect what you like. If you just want some affordable stuff, you like the art, that's always a possibility out there for you. But if you're looking for long-term retained value, I don't want to say it's 100% certain, but I think the market is already speaking about what they think in relation to Japanese product. I will say, though, I will put a huge asterisk there in that we're talking about sealed product only and the regular cards that are in the sets. When you're talking about promo cards,
exclusive cards,
when you're talking about regional exclusive cards, there is a huge market in collecting that. Of course, the Chinese anniversary sets are going crazy. I mean, recently in France, they announced another Treasure Rare Zoro, which...
Dude, I'm gonna...
My buddy over here is a diehard Zoro collector. Immediately...
I can't say it on YouTube or this video will get taken down what I do, but...
He immediately was saying how he needed to get that card. Yeah.
Dude, I can't even get this damn first one, bro. It's like there's one listing on eBay, and it's like a $1,000,000, dude.
Yeah. So for those region-exclusive promo cards, Highly recommend that you do not be afraid of those, because at the end of the day, those are the only ones that are going to be in existence unless Bandai decides to do a regional crossover, which I think would be a huge mistake by them. Huge mistake. In that the exclusivity for the region, I think, actually bolsters the set. I think it bolsters collectability for sure.
Treasurers is a really good idea. It makes me want to open a freaking French box of OP12. Promise you that.
Yeah.
To try to get that Zoro card. So I mean, Treasurers are awesome. Honestly, I like that Bandai does them. I just don't know why the English one is usually bad. We had Lucky Root.
I'm not gonna lie. This might be controversial. I think the Fat Luffy card is mid. I think it's one of the bottom 3 treasurers. I'm gonna say.
I mean, that's true.
Think it's mid.
I think they purposely give us the mid ones because we're gonna buy it anyway. And then they give these other ones.
Nowadays, it's probably true.
They probably give that heat to the other ones, so the freaking greedy ass bastards over here go get those ones, like me.
Market manipulation, man. Bandai,
what the hell?
What are you doing?
Where's my treasure, Zoro? Bandai. All right. Well, hopefully we answered your question. Thank you so much, Pokey Choi, for the question, by the way. All right, guys. Well, that has been it for Bud's Watch episode 11. We talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of opinionated stuff, a lot of things that you guys might have your guys' own opinions on that you guys think we're dumbasses for. But it is what it is. Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Nick, anything to cap us off, or we just see you frudging later here?
Nope. Well, shout out Nate Shop for that one. You can't just steal his catchphrase. But anyways, guys, I just want to say, as always, thank you so much for spending an hour out of your days to be here with the buds and listen to us talk about something we're incredibly passionate about and we love, being One Piece and the One Piece trading card game. As Dom mentioned, please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts down below. We always love having discourse and conversations with you guys, our community, and helping you in your collecting journey. Last thing I'm going to say is a plug. If future Dom, which he's going to do, he's going to go ahead and put up 2 playlists here. One playlist is going to be to Bud's Watch, where you can watch the entire archive of everything we've talked about on this quote-unquote podcast TV show, even though it's just 2 guys talking.